Seth Goldman is president and TEO of Honest Tea, the company he co-founded in 1998 with Professor Barry Nalebuff of the Yale School of Management. Honest Tea is the nation's best-selling organic bottled tea company with products distributed in every state as well as overseas. In addition to being named one of the Better World Shopping Guide's 10 best companies on the planet based on their overall social and environmental record, the Huffington Post recently included Honest Tea as one of the leading 8 revolutionary, socially responsible companies. For the second year in a row, Honest Tea has received Greenopia.com's coveted 4-leaf rating as the greenest beverage company. Honest Tea was the first company to make organic bottled as well as fair trade certified bottled tea. And in 2008, Seth co-founded Bethesda Green, a local initiative in Honest Tea's hometown that has installed dozens of recycling bins, created a project to help area restaurants convert their grease waste into biodiesel, and launched a green business incubator for 10 eco-conscious entrepreneurs. Please welcome Seth Goldman.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here. I've heard so much about this conference, and we've been supporting it for years. It's really nice to physically be here. And in New Bedford, I've never been to New Bedford before. I went running this morning and got to run along the docks, and it's so refreshing to see people who make a living from the fruit of the earth. I mean, obviously we all make a living based on what the earth provides, but when you see it directly, it often, today I like to say we have a nature, especially children today, have a nature deficit disorder. They're not really connected to where food comes from, where life comes from, and so it's always good to bring it home. And I want to talk a little bit about today how Honest Tea has been connected to nature, how we've grown, and some of the challenges we've been going through as we've grown. First, though, I want to actually take you to the source. So we talk about the fruit of the earth here, and I want to take you, this was a tea garden I visited in China, in Anhui province, which is in south-central China. It's a relatively poor province. And so I had flown a long way, driven a long way, flown again and driven again, and ultimately the road literally came to an end, and my host took me out, and we're here to see tea leaves. So without trying to be too Western in my thinking, after traveling so far, I was ready to see the tea fields, the tea bushes. And I got out, and there was just some houses. There was really no tea bushes around. And I said, well, are we going to get to the tea bushes? They said, yes, just come down this path. And we get to the end of the path, and there's a river. And I look around, I still don't see any tea bushes. And I said, we are here to see the tea bushes, right? And they said, yeah, it's just on the other side of the river. And I don't see a bridge anywhere. I'm wondering, how are we going to get over to the other side? I said, have you thought about building a bridge? Because since you're involved in commerce, that would seem like the logical thing to do. And they said, well, no. They gave me 4 interesting reasons why they didn't. First of all, it's a poor province. We can't just put up a bridge just because that might be easier. Second of all, there's a lot of flooding in this part of China. So how do you know what the right height to build is? It could, during the rainy season, maybe one height, and during the dry season, another. Then they said, it's an organic tea garden. You don't need large bags of chemicals or heavy equipment to cultivate this field. But the most interesting thing they said was, if we build a bridge, then there'll be a road. If we build a road, there'll be infrastructure. And this source, which we've protected, will all of a sudden lose what's kept it special. So instead of a bridge, this guy comes up in a bamboo raft. We got our feet a little bit wet, but you end up in a tea field. And for me, this was such an interesting, different way of thinking. And to make it put on a larger stage, I saw a problem, no bridge, and there's a solution. A solution is to build a bridge. But when you put in what might be the easy solution, there's a whole different set of problems that you create. And so much with our agriculture. You think about, okay, we got a problem. There's weeds, there's pests. A solution is chemical pesticides or chemical herbicides. But as we now know, those solutions create other problems. And for me, this whole approach is actually a much broader way to think about business too, because sometimes we create so many solutions, we're killing ourselves. A little bit more. By the way, tea is an evergreen plant, so this was in April, just before the first flush. These are some of the people who pick the tea leaves. They put them in baskets, and they are very light. They can be brought back and forth on the rafts. We were always focused on product placement at Honest Tea, so we knew the guy who drives the raft is a connector, an important person to spread the word. And also, just to give you a sense of the level of development here, it is a very basic form of agriculture. It is worth noting that the houses are two-story, and in China, that's a sign of relative affluence, and organics is one of the reasons that this community was able to have a little more affluence, because tea is a commodity, and so organics is a way for them to get a premium price. Okay, so from China to Bethesda, Maryland, where Honest Tea was based. This is my co-founder, Barry, and we started the company with the idea there should just be a drink out there without so much sugar. We know that soft drinks are the largest source of sugar in the American diet, and we were just thirsty. There were just too many drinks with a lot of sugar. So we put together some samples. We got 5 thermoses and an empty Snapple bottle, and I brought them to Whole Foods down in the Mid-Atlantic and said, I want to sell this in your store. And to my surprise, they said, okay, we'll take 15,000 bottles, because we never made the tea before. And I said, okay, give me a few months, and I'll find a way to get you the tea. And so we were in business. And we have, as you heard, we're the first to make organic bottled tea. I'll talk some more about that. We also, just this week, announced that we are converting all of our tea to fair trade certification going forward. So thank you. A really exciting step for us, and I'll talk some more about it. 2 other notes. The first is, you see this little bug here. It says plant a tree, and it turns out that all of our bottles have this little, and this is something we created ourselves, and we did it on our very first label iteration, and Barry said to me, I said, I just want to put that on there. He says, well, what does it mean? And back in 1998, when we were getting started, I said, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it means, but it means there's a commitment here to doing more than just moving cases of liquid around. And so I hope to share with you how we've kind of lived up to that aspiration of planting a tree. Also, Coca-Cola purchased 40% of Honest Tea in 2008, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, why that, from our point of view, we'll talk about it, was a decision that we think it could be good for us. Let's just talk a little bit about the idea of brewing tea. So this is a picture from one of our first production runs. It turns out tea is, there's a few things about tea. First of all, most bottled tea is not really tea. It's like Tang. They take powder and they add water and stir and they call that tea. Well, we use real tea leaves. And the challenge is when you use real tea leaves, it's hard to filter out. So that first picture, you'll see some filter bags. We were dunking in a tank. And then we had this kind of big tea strainer that we were using. And that worked out okay. But the whole challenge is how do you get tea leaves and how do you filter them? So we actually have a little video here. I just want to show you that explains how we make tea and the production process. So we can roll the video. So here's how most bottled tea companies make their tea. They take a powder or syrup that's been formulated in a lab and made in a factory, probably includes some chemicals not found in a tea garden. They add it to hot water, stir it around, put it in a bottle, and they call that tea. So now we're going to shift to a tea garden in India. And by the way, ladybugs, those are one of our pest control devices. Ladybugs eat the nits. But you see they're picking the tea leaves. It's really the top leaves on the bush which regenerate very quickly. And then those leaves are brought to our bottling plants. We have bottling plants around the country. And it's the exact same leaves. They've just been rolled and dried. Then what we do is we put it into boiling water. So you'll see that going in. Stir it around, let it infuse for about 5 minutes. And then we just filter it out. So now the tea is being filtered out. And then the filtered out tea goes into a bin. But what's interesting about it, I'm about to, in the picture, pull out some of the leaves. And you'll see that it is exactly the same tea leaf as from the garden. And so that's how you make tea. And one of the things we've been trying to communicate is this notion that nature got it right. We put it in a bottle, and so much of what other people do is so far removed from nature that you don't really have a sense of where it started and where nature really is. One of the reasons that organic tea is so important is because tea leaves are never rinsed. So you saw the picture of the tea leaves, you saw them picked, and you saw them dried, but there was never any rinsing. So if I buy an apple or a tomato and I take it home, if there's chemicals sprayed on it, I can wash it off, or I can peel it. I'll get a lot of the surface chemicals off. Any chemicals sprayed on tea leaves, and there are a lot, unfortunately, in conventional agriculture, stay on the leaves until hot water is poured on the leaves. So that's exactly what gets washed into the tea that you'll drink. Not a very happy thought. And so just to look at it, one of the main herbicides used is atrazine. You may be familiar with this compound, and you heard Annie Leonard speak about compounds found in our bodies. Well, we've definitely found atrazine both in the United States and certainly in the developing world. And it's the same compound that was used, you've heard about hermaphrodite frogs and sex-mutated frogs. And that atrazine is one of the key elements of that. So this is the kind of thing that ends up in the drink when you're not buying organic ingredients. The other thing is the fair trade. I talked about that, and for us it's been a really exciting, it's something that's built. When we started, there wasn't enough fair trade tea to really make it in a bottle. And by 2003, we were able to get enough sources, and then we've been working with our suppliers to get all of our tea certified, and we've just started that process, and so that's an exciting step for us as well. And we funded all kinds of interesting things, everything from biogas units to computer learning centers in the tea gardens, and of course, obviously, the protection around wages and working conditions. You heard a little bit about Bethesda Green. I just want to share with you some of the interesting things we've done there, whether it's the recycling bins, e-cycling days where we've collected hundreds of thousands of pounds of materials, home electronics, and other things that aren't supposed to go into conventional waste streams, and the Green Business Incubator. And it's been exciting to see how both businesses and community members have engaged in this. It's a local model. Granted, we're not. It's a relative, but even there, our success has fueled other communities around us. There's now, in where we live in Maryland, there's a Silver Spring Green, a Poolsville Green, other communities we're sharing what we've learned. So let me just talk a little bit how our company's grown. So you can see back when I started with our thermoses in 1998, we've grown. And for us, it's innovation and growth go hand in hand. So we were the first to do organics, first to do fair trade, Bethesda Green. We've just published our first mission report, which is online. And for us, these are absolutely part of our growth. They're the reason for our growth. They're not trade-offs. And that's how we see the business. We talk about it as a mission-driven business and mission-driven growth. And we get great responses from our consumers. This is just an example. This is maybe one of my favorites, but this was a voicemail actually from a consumer who said, I started to read your website last night and I thought, oh my gosh, I would beg to work at this company. I would move so I could work for this company. I wish you did everything. I wish you did my banking. I wish you were my neighbors. Just thank you so much. I love this product. I drink it every day. So we're not going into banking anytime soon. But it's nice to feel like we've got this connection with these consumers that is an authentic connection. You may have heard that President Obama is a big honest tea drinker, and it turns out that he likes, we have a variety called Green Dragon tea and also Community Green, but I saw him during the campaign and he said, I had to switch to Black Forest Berry because the caffeine was making me too jumpy. And within a few months of him being elected, we converted Black Forest Berry to fair trade, so it was great to have fair trade products served in the White House. So we've got a company based in organics with a commitment to our mission. What are we doing partnering with a company like Coca-Cola? I think that's probably a fair question to raise. So let's talk about that. First of all, I want to before I get to that, just show that because of what we've done, we've actually had an impact on the beverage industry. So we were the first to make organic, but all these other companies are now involved in organics. And also we were the first to make really successfully lower calorie teas. And all of these other companies are now, when we started, the average calorie profile of a bottled tea was 100 calories. Now it's much closer to 60. We have a line called Honest Kids, which are drink pouches for kids. And we've had interesting impacts on the main player in two different ways. So Capri Sun sells billions of kids' pouches. When we started, Capri Sun was at 100 calories with high fructose corn syrup. They're now at 75 calories without, with sugar. We started an initiative with TerraCycle. We created it where they would, kids would collect pouches and put them back, rather than just throw them out, collect the pouches and send them in to be remade into products. And Kraft, which makes Capri Sun, joined that as well. So, on the one hand, you say, oh, that's too bad they're copying what we're doing. On the other hand, it's about the impact. So we take satisfaction that something we started has grown to such a scale. And then obviously, thank you. So then the issue about what happened with Coca-Cola. So this is a slide from the Coca-Cola management board meeting when Coke decided to make the investment to Honest Tea. The Coke management said, look, we know what's going on. The sales of carbonated soft drinks are going down. It's been going down for the past 10 years. And if we... And so as you look at the landscape now, health and wellness, environmental consciousness, and social responsibility are all increasing as areas of importance. And where they overlap right now is very small. But if you look 5 years out, or in this case only 2 years out, where they all overlap, when a company can take into account all of its responsibilities, all of its obligations, all of its aspirations, that's the new standard for doing business. And that's where Honest Tea is, and that's where the Coca-Cola Company needs to move toward. So, so that was their reason for investing in Honest Tea. So what does it mean for us? Whoops, let's go back. For Honest Tea, it means we all of a sudden have access to distribution around the world in a way, around this country, we never did. For the longest time, we only had distribution in the natural foods world. We love the natural co-ops. We love accounts like Whole Foods because they make our business possible. But if that's if that's the only place our product is sold, we're not reaching the majority of the American population. We're not having the impact on the diet that we need to. We're not having the impact on agriculture around the world that we could have, or on the workers in the communities where we source fair trade tea. So now with Coca-Cola, we do have distribution. Just last month, we accomplished national distribution. So if you go to any Coca-Cola warehouse around the country, you should be able to find an organic and soon a fair trade bottled tea. We also have the ability to buy packaging from Coca-Cola, through their purchasing power. And then what do we offer Coke? Well, you saw that graph, but we also have a brand that has a real commitment to sustainability and to health. From my perspective, I think about what kind of impact we can have as a company. So right now, Honest Tea is buying about 3 million pounds of organic ingredients. We expect that to grow to 60 million pounds. 3 million pounds is good. I don't want to minimize that because we're proud of how we've grown. But when we get to 60 million pounds of organic ingredients, that changes how agriculture works in the developing world. We've found ways to lightweight our packaging, to make our packaging more efficient. And when we can get to scale, this has real impact on source reduction. We also look at the recycling model of Bethesda Green. Can we scale that? Can we expand that? And then I go, as maybe an entrepreneurs want to do, what more could we do? What about, you heard about how we got the restaurants in Bethesda to convert their grease to biodiesel. Well, is there a way for beverage trucks, when they make a delivery to a restaurant, as they're dropping off cases on the front end, on the back end, they're refueling with the grease from the restaurant where they've dropped off? What about an idea? Think about, you always hear the stories. You go to the developing world, or someone goes to the developing world, at the end of a dirt road, there's a Coca-Cola sign, where the government barely can reach. What if you could use that infrastructure to distribute healthy products? It has to be market-based. It wouldn't be viable to tell Coke, hey, you need to become a nonprofit. That's not going to work for this company. But if you could use that infrastructure to actually have a positive contribution to the health of the world, that's a pretty powerful idea, and it's something that we now have the opportunity to have that discussion. But I want to also recognize there's some concerns. This was an email we got just yesterday, or Thursday. I love your Honest Tea, but I would really hate if you sell your company to Coca-Cola. The day you sell it, that day would be the last day I drink a great Honest Tea. Honestly, it would be the last bottle. It's very painful for me to hear. But I'm trying to be honest with you. This is going to be an issue because Coke does have the right to buy our company next year. So it's a real area of concern. But then I say, I look at it and I say, okay, I totally recognize that's a legitimate concern, but I think about it. And I actually sent an email back to Phil. I said, well, what's the area of concern? Is it because if we make our product as healthy as it's been, as organic as it's never been as fair trade as it is now, what would be wrong with buying Honest Tea? And I've had conversations certainly with other people. I said, well, I'm concerned about Coke's labor policies. There was a situation in Colombia where a bottler had conflicts with unions, and I'm not in any way excusing it. But I would say, if you're concerned about labor policies, shouldn't you be buying the only fair trade certified bottled tea on the market? And if you're concerned about sustainability, shouldn't you be buying the first and really the main organic brand of tea? So I think the real question in my mind is, there's no question where we've come from is a place where we're mission-based. And I hope we have the chance for people to judge us based on how we act going forward. I recognize there's certainly some concerns around any large corporation. But we're certainly doing our best to continue to create a business driven by the mission. A few other thoughts. This was, to me, an exciting, you saw our little tea brewing video. This is a picture of a tea brewing system that was set up in a Coca-Cola facility. So that's me up on top there, 3-story system. So the question was, okay, when Coke starts making Honest Tea, the first thing they'll do is try to find a way to make it cheaper. Well, this tea brewing system cost more than $1 million. And they built it. And to me, it was a very reassuring message that they're going to respect the way the product was created. We did find a place for our tea brewer. It's now on our desk in Bethesda, so there's still a place for it. Now I want to share with you a quick little video. It's fun because it shows how we've done our marketing, but it also, I think, shows, for me, it's a reassuring indicator about our whole country. We went out, as we launched this summer, in whole cities we'd never had Honest Tea before, places like Atlanta, Chicago, and we were trying to figure out, how do we create awareness? Because Honest Tea doesn't have a big budget. We're not going to be advertising on the Super Bowl or on American Idol. How do we create awareness in areas where people don't know about Honest Tea? So we conducted social experiments in each city. We went to these, we set up booths called the Honest Store and put out bottles and said, $1 a bottle, it's an honor system. No cashier, no visible cameras, just pay $1 for a bottle. And we wanted to see how honest people were. And this is what happened.
Given it's food for thought, it's appropriate to talk about tea. Honesty on Wall Street. How about Honest Tea on Wall Street? The brand set up a free giveaway or an honor system. You have to pay $1 if you want a bottle, and then it set up cameras. Had no one there to see would Wall Streeters steal. It turns out 89% were honest and left $1. Now, Steve, I want them to put that thing
experiment downtown and around the country.
Stand unmanned and sit back and just see who will pay $1 and who won't based on the honor system.
It's a bold marketing move for Honest Tea, challenging Snapple, the market leader, right here on their own home turf.
I think it's pretty good marketing. So far, it's so good. Chicago's looking like a pretty honest city.
A national tea company set up an unmanned pop-up store there based on the honor system.
So Ben Eisler went to find out who paid and who didn't.
As you can see, there is absolutely nobody here to make sure that you pay. There's just a box for the money and a whole lot of iced tea.
Honest Tea is trying to find out how honest Angelinos are. So in Runyon Canyon,
This fake pop-up shop has popped up in the Grove today to test our honesty.
I want to take you back to Runyon Canyon and our hidden camera that is checking out to see if people are being honest about the tea they're taking. He's looking around.
Oh, dude.
He's putting it back. He's taking another.
He doesn't like that flavor.
Pocket. He's just trying to see what the dealio is. Cool. He's looking around over his shoulder.
And he can't.
Oh, there he is! We love Shirt Angelino!
Don't do it!
He's like,
Oh, no,
if I put $20
If you
in, I'm
put in
going to take...
$5 and he gets 5.
He's going to start putting them in his pockets. Wait a minute.
Don't do it!
We'll give it that.
So we're going to spend the rest of the hour just on this.
So it was a fun experiment, but I also took heart from it. I mean, I think it's very easy to distrust people, and turns out you really can trust people. It was, for me, a very refreshing experience. And of course, for us, a great way to build awareness on without paying a lot of money. So I just want to close with two thoughts. So we started talking about China, and I want to offer you two Chinese proverbs that we share as bottle cap quotes. This is just in big picture about how to think about, as I've been growing the business, think about what works, think about resonates with you, but make sure you're creating something the world you want to live in. And so this is one of my favorite proverbs. It says, if we don't change the direction we are headed, we will end up where we are going. And it's certainly true with business. And so, okay, look, there's no question, this is a risk that we're taking with Coca-Cola. We know how that company's history and how they've been, and the products they've been making. But it's not going to change unless somebody works with them to take it in a different direction. I can tell you, having been in the beverage business for 13 years, it is virtually impossible to create a national beverage without distribution. I've definitely struggled to do that. Now, we are on a stage where we just never would have that opportunity before. And so the last proverb I want to share with you is one that addresses that. Okay, it's a risk. It was a risk with Honest Tea from the start. There's a lot of people who say it cannot be done. You can't take a healthy, organic, fair trade product, put it in with a company that hasn't had a commitment to that, and survive. And like so much that is true, and I know this is something this audience identifies with, those who say it cannot be done should not interrupt the people doing it. So we're going to give it a try. Thank you very much.